All right, so we just talked about graphing quadratics in all three forms. You have taken a quiz, which was not nearly what I really wanted it to be, but being that I'm not there, we'll have to move on from there. If you have any questions about graphing, please ask, because you will on your test, you will be expected to be able to graph by hand, of course. I mean, you can use your calculator to check your work, but you'll have to be able to graph those in all three forms by hand. So make sure you know how to do that. If you don't, you can email me, you can text me, you can do any of the sort, and leaving you a minute, but I got a phone call and then got distracted. But now on to what we're doing today. So what we're going to do today is take these three forms that we've already talked about and be able to manipulate at least two of them, the vertex and the intercept form, to look like standard form. So we'll call this changing the standard form. And I'll get out of this big thick writing in just a second. You're going to find that you already know how to do this. You may not think you don't, but you do. So this will be a little bit of a review from Algebra 1 as far as multiplying and stuff goes. So remember, we have our three forms. Standard, which looks like this, ax squared plus bx plus c, and you've done a lot with these forms now, so you should be pretty good with working with them. Vertex form, x minus h squared plus k, which of course gives us our vertex, right? And then intercept, which tells us where it crosses the x-axis. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to work on making this vertex look like standard form and making this intercept look like standard form. And if I had to guess, you guys already know how to do that and you already know what to do. But this is going to involve a lot of multiplying out. Some of you learned this as foiling. I don't like to use the word foiling because foiling only works when you're multiplying two binomials, but that's okay. We'll get there if that's what you call it, as long as you understand what it is we're doing. We're going to look, because of this exponent here, we're going to look at this form as x minus h, writing it two times instead of with this squared. Okay, so before we start, just as a reminder, if I have something, let's say x plus 5 squared, this is never equal to, we never ever ever distribute that to say that, oh, this is x squared plus 25, because it's not. In fact, what we have to do is this tells us how many times we multiply it. And so this says, hey, you know what? Multiply this two times. Well, okay. So x plus 5, x plus 5. Okay, and then we're going to get into how we multiply this. So a lot of you learned FOIL. We're not going to say FOIL, we're just going to say distribute, because that's really what we're doing. So I take the very first term of the first parentheses, okay, and it has to distribute through, just like you would distribute anything else, it has to distribute through to everything in the second parentheses, okay? And once I'm done with that one, then I move on to the next term, and it multiplies to everything in the second parentheses. And then I'm done with that one. And if I had another term, then that would also multiply through, and I would continue this until I had used all the terms from the first parentheses here, multiplied to every term in the second parentheses. So make sure each term in the first parentheses distributes to each term in the second parentheses. No matter how many terms there are in each one, make sure that that happens, okay? If I go too fast or need to slow down or anything like that, feel free to pause or rewind or do whatever you need to do as we work through these in this video. All right, so now let's do a couple examples. Okay, so let's say I had y equals, we'll even make it a little bit harder, negative 1/2 times x minus 3. Let's do an intercept. Okay, This is, of course, intercept form, so we'll look first at going from intercept to standard. The key here is understanding that you never, never, never multiply more than two things at one time. I'm going to write this right over here for you. Never multiply more than, let me say, things at once. And what I mean by that is don't come over here and take this 1/2 and start sending it to everybody, because that's not what you do. You pick two things and you multiply them first, okay? And then you simplify and then you multiply the third to it. So I think what I'll do is I'll multiply the two hardest things to do first. So I'm going to take these two. So the negative 1/2 is still there. Remember, I'm not messing with that right now. But I am going to start multiplying through. So I start with the very first term, and it multiplies to everything in the second parentheses. So x times x is, of course, x squared. X times 1 would be a positive 1x. I'm done with that one. And now I need the negative 3. So negative 3 times x is, of course, negative 3x. And negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Now, as I've been looking at your homework and grading it, the biggest problem I've seen with homework is not showing enough work or not showing me what you need to show. Remember, if I write it, then that needs to be your minimum amount of work shown. So if I do that much, you at least need to do that much. So if you're questioning what you need to do, make sure you look back at how I've worked the problems, because that's how much work that you need to show. Also, notice how the work is lined up neatly under it so it's easy to follow. That is your justification for your answer. That is what we're looking for, okay? I'm going to combine like terms here. Of course, x and negative 3x are like terms, and together would give us negative 2x. So I have x squared minus 2x minus 3. Still not done quite yet, because I have that negative 1/2 on the outside that I need to distribute through. So I'm going to go ahead now, because I've done 2, I've simplified, now I can multiply the next together. So negative 1/2 times x squared is negative 1/2 x squared. Negative 1/2, watch these signs, times negative 2x would be a positive, because it's negative times a negative, positive x. And again, a negative times a negative, this would be positive 3 over 2. And there's nothing wrong with leaving this in fraction form that way. Now I am officially in standard form. I am in ax squared plus bx plus c form, and so I'm good to move on. This is the most work you'll have to do for these as far as the multiplication here. You'll multiply the two parentheses together first, and then take that a that's outside and distribute that through. Okay, so pretty easy to go from intercept to standard. And remember, the benefit here being in standard form. Now in intercept, the a is a, it does what it does. But here, of course, we've got our y-intercept handy. And there'll be many other things that you will find as we go that standard form is handy for. But this is really good, because we're going to, very soon, in fact, probably tomorrow, we will start factoring, where we will go from standard back up to these forms. So in order to go backwards, you really need to have a good concrete understanding of going forwards first. One more. Let's go from Vertex to standard. A little bit harder, just because there's a few more working pieces in this one, but it's still not hard, and it's still the same concept. This is why I'm going a little bit faster than normal through this. I wouldn't probably, if I was there, I probably would not take an entire day doing this. But it's a good review. It's good to really get these concepts down here, so that whenever we move forward, you'll have a much better foundation. All right, so let's say I'm in Vertex form, so maybe I have 3 times x plus 1 squared minus 5, something that looks like that, right? And I told you earlier, when you have the square, that just simply tells you how many times to write it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 3 times x plus 1 times x plus 1 minus 5. Now, remember your order of operations? So that subtraction on the end is going to come absolutely last, so I need to work on these multiplications first. Now, as far as which ones you do first, it does not matter. Earlier, I did the two binomials first. That means two pieces, but you don't, or two terms, but you don't have to multiply these two first. If you want to do the 3 to these two first and then multiply to that one, whichever way you want to do it, as long as you only do two at a time. I tend to like to do the binomials together first because they're usually the hardest. So I have 3 times, and I'm just going to distribute through here. Remember that first term goes to everybody. X times x is, of course, x squared. And x times 1 is x. I'm done with that one, so cross it out, and I'm going to move on to the 1. 1 times x is x, and 1 times 1 is 1. That minus 5 is still hanging around outside there. Don't forget to bring it down as you continue. I am going to clean up those parentheses just a little bit by combining my like terms. So x squared plus 2x plus 1 is 5. Again, remember, addition subtraction is last, so that outside that parentheses there is going to be absolutely last. So I need to finish all this multiplying. So I'm just going to distribute this 3 through. So 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times, whoop, I missed the number there. 3 times 1 is 3 minus 5. And now I can combine that like term together to have 3x squared plus 6x minus 2. Now, of course, I am in standard form. Y-intercept is -2, and I am good to move forward. So what I'm going to have you do is complete some work. I am going to post again the pages that you need. You're going to do 24 through 32. The problems are exactly like this. Make sure you show all your work and all your steps. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email me, text me, send me a remind, any of the above, and I'll be happy to help you guys. Thank you so much.